Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. If you haven't already, make sure you make sweet love to that subscribe button so you're not missing any of these vlogs about my mental health journey, any of my celebrity interviews about their mental health journeys, or any of my song reactions pertaining to mental health. Today is a very special day for me, as today marks 3 years since I stepped down from the ledge, since I decided to keep fighting, to keep going, to keep trying, to keep living. 3 years ago today. And sometimes it feels like I'm living on borrowed time. And I'd actually done a special reaction for you guys, but YouTube decided to temporarily block 2 videos in a row on my channel. So it'll be coming out in the next couple of days, and I promise you'll know which one is which. But I'm actually really grateful because it gave me the opportunity, gave me the motivation to share this with you, because I definitely wanted to come on here today and just give this update, because I'm so excited and so grateful to still be here. And I want to share with you something that I was reflecting upon this morning, and I decided to journal. I wasn't going to share this, but as I said, I really wanted to come on here, and it seemed perfect because I know that there are a lot of people on the channel here that are struggling and that might be feeling hopeless and that might be feeling like there's no other way out, that the pain is too much. And I felt that way. I felt that way for a very long time. And I want to share with you today 50 things that I would not have gotten to experience had I jumped that day 3 years ago. So we're gonna have a little bit of story time. I journaled this morning. Like I said, I didn't plan on sharing it, but I think that I need to. So I love you guys so much. I wouldn't have got to hear Eric Bischoff, a childhood hero, tell me that he's proud of me. I wouldn't have got to be what Chester was to me and saved so many people from the edge. I wouldn't have got to interview one of my biggest teenage celebrity crushes, Christian Burns from BB Mac. I wouldn't have got to know what a healthy relationship feels like. I wouldn't have gotten to interview and become friends with the amazing Jamie Bennington. I wouldn't have got to prove the professionals wrong and get decertified as having a serious mental illness, or SMI. I wouldn't have got to have the goofy inside joke I love you face with Bryston that is inspired by our soap opera, The Bold and the Beautiful. One of the female characters had professed her love to another character, and the other character, this guy, his response was, "I love you too." So now every time I say "I love you" to my son, his response is, "I love you too," with this dramatic eyebrow raise. I wouldn't have got to see that. I wouldn't have got to be there for my 2 chihuahuas when they passed after the 17 and 15 years that they were there for me. And I'm so grateful that I got to be there for them until the very, very end. I would have never motivated my best friend to quit smoking and drinking, and I am so proud of him for that. I would have never checked off my bucket list item and had the powerful experience of going to Auschwitz. I wouldn't have appeased my inner 13-year-old by shaking Justin Timberlake's hand and meeting an amazing friend at this event. I wouldn't have known what it was like to wake up excited for the day and not dreading it. Tears of dread, often, to be honest. I wouldn't have got to go on stage to be part of a David Copperfield illusion. I wouldn't have found the delicious maca cacao latte that I enjoy so much every morning. I wouldn't have got to see the thousands of stars of a clear night sky. I wouldn't have got to be the mom that I dreamed of being. I wouldn't have known anything else other than crippling depression, because that's all I knew as far back as I remember. I wouldn't have had the heartwarming moment of my son crawling on my lap and saying, I love you 3000. I wouldn't have landed the magazine features for Oxygen, Strong, and Phoenix magazine that I am so proud of. I wouldn't have helped my childhood bestie improve the environment her depression had created and help her kids pursue their education. I wouldn't have known how many random people support and believe in me. I wouldn't have gotten to watch and get giddily excited over Lucifer. I wouldn't have known what it felt like to look in the mirror and not hate myself. I wouldn't have known what a life without dysregulating, borderline BPD episodes even looked like. I wouldn't have read so many amazing classic books, some of which right here, that have been on my list for so long, that have been put off for decades. I wouldn't have got to feel the empowerment that I could thrive mentally and physically through a freaking global pandemic. I wouldn't have written my story. I wouldn't have felt at peace and even grateful for the emotional part of myself. I wouldn't have watched a sunset from a mountaintop. I wouldn't have made peace with the people that I hurt during my dark days. I wouldn't have gone on the immersion trip to France that I had been excited for and dreamed of for so long. I wouldn't have got to take my son to Disneyland. I wouldn't have lived to see nearly every fast food place and restaurant offer real vegan options, and that was something that really excited me. I wouldn't have wound up having a song with my son, which is Miss You by Blink-182, by the way, and I wouldn't have got to dance with him so many times to it, and I wouldn't have got to start a family tradition of having a Halloween tree because of it. I wouldn't have known that I could not only survive without my vices, like alcohol and cocaine and cigarettes and all the things that I turned to, the screen addiction, all those things, but be happy without them. I wouldn't have got to hike the Superstition Mountains with my son. I wouldn't have had a chance to remember what childhood curiosity and wonder feel like from getting lost in videos from the YouTube channel All Time, which I will link below, by the way. It's an amazing channel. I love it. It's so mysterious and it has so much awesome things to it. And no, I'm not being sponsored or anything. I wouldn't have ever had a clear vision for what I want for my life and future. I was always confused, or I didn't believe that I could do these things. I didn't believe I was worthy of these things, or I just was so mentally exhausted that I didn't know what I really wanted. Now I do, and I believe that I will get there. I wouldn't have had the thrill of being inside an abandoned Ren fair and sitting on the Queen's throne. I wouldn't have got to watch Bryston light up when he finally got his Honest Trailer dream, and I wouldn't have gotten the pleasure of getting to know a big voice guy who was a pretty darn amazing dude. I wouldn't have got closure on some old breakups. I wouldn't have had my ex, with whom I had a very rocky history with, tell me that he was proud of me. I would have found so many ways to turn my tragic backstory into something positive, not only for myself, but using it to make a difference to others. I wouldn't have ran 3 miles just to stick it to the doctor who had told my parents that I would never walk when I was born. I would have never had drinks with Billy Bob Thornton, interviewed him twice, and had him endorse my book. I would have never had the opportunity to bond with my cousin that I never got to have a relationship with. In a multitude of ways, I wouldn't have felt a sense of family again. I wouldn't have had the moment of Bryston and I holding each other under his blanket that he insisted were his wings to protect his mama, after I showed him a specific scene in Lucifer that had really hurt me because I felt like I didn't have anyone that loved me and would protect me like that. I wouldn't have met my former roommate and still friend, Alan Conquest, and learned, among a bazillion amazing lessons and insights, that people can change. I wouldn't have been there for my son with his emotional struggles. I wouldn't have been there for my friend going through her hard divorce. I wouldn't have been there for my other friend on the anniversary of his sister's passing. Or, I mean, even another friend who lost her dad. I wouldn't have been able to be there and love them and support them. And I wouldn't be here talking to all of you right now. And this channel wouldn't exist. And I just want to say to those of you that are struggling, that are having a hard time, that I see you and you're not alone. You're valued and you're cared for, and you have a safe place here. And coming from the other side of this same pain that you're feeling right now, I might not know your exact situation, but I know how intense the pain was that I felt. And it is absolutely worth it to keep fighting and to keep trying, because I am not anyone special. I don't have any extravagant privileges. I don't have any extravagant connections. I don't have exorbitant amounts of money in my bank account. And I found happiness. And you can too. What could you miss? What could you be missing? Let me know. Share your mental health story. Let's keep talking. I love you guys so, so, so much. Don't forget to share this video. You never know who might need to hear it. Mwah.